The Amazonian tribe members had a unique perspective on intimacy, perceiving sex as a source of enjoyment and vitality. Men possessed a strong libido and often engaged in competition to attract desirable women. Rather than using money, fish served as a form of currency for women, so men strived to catch as much as possible. Similar to other civilizations, the Amazonian tribes had a highly eroticized culture where sex was considered an essential aspect of life. If you're interested in exploring the sexual fantasies of these people, make sure to subscribe to the History Made Easy channel for future videos delving into the sexuality of various cultures. Enjoy the video! Among the Amazonian tribes, same-sex relationships, self-indulgence, and incest were stigmatized. Engaging in sexual intercourse with members of other nations was also prohibited. The only permissible sexual partners were cross-relatives, although there were certain exceptions that villagers could make. The mythology and rituals of this people revealed various sexual practices, including relationships with close relatives, same-sex encounters, and even connections with plants and animals, which was considered particularly peculiar. Some rituals involved role reversal, where men performed household chores while women took care of children. During women's menstrual cycles, a matriarchal social structure was observed, contrasting with patriarchal systems in other civilizations. Male-female relations in the Amazonian tribes were characterized by significant antagonism, and public offensive sexual jokes were common. Men exhibited insecurity and fear toward women, yet they coexisted and collaborated harmoniously in daily activities. Romantic love often aroused suspicion, and married couples were expected to maintain distance and avoid excessive intimacy. Only new emotional couples within the tribe were allowed greater affection. Newly married couples spent most of their time together, and as their affection grew, they became targets of playful teasing from those around them. According to legends, excessive thoughts about a spouse attracted snakes, jaguars, and evil spirits. A solitary young man was generally celibate, especially during specific periods. Towards the end of his isolation, he might succumb to temptation and engage in secret affairs. Upon discovery, his father would usher him into public life, signifying his transition into manhood and readiness for marriage. Delicately navigating the intricate web of sexual relations within the village, he would arrange connections with multiple women. Establishing sexual relations with most women could be embarrassing. However, single girls faced no such challenges, as they did not have husbands who would become jealous. Their fathers would be pleased if someone took an interest in them. Boys would send gifts, often in the form of fish, as a way to court them. Premarital courtship and sexual relations were viewed casually by the locals, but it posed a problem for men since most women were already married. The Amazonian tribes did not have an issue with extramarital sexual relations, but pregnancy before marriage was heavily criticized. Unmarried mothers became objects of ridicule, and fatherless children were vulnerable to abuse. Most girls would marry as soon as they reached their teenage years, and extramarital affairs were commonplace. Both men and women were prone to jealousy, and various myths warned of dire consequences for adulterous couples, such as beatings, dismemberment, or being forever bound during sexual acts. Intimate relationships within Amazonian tribes are influenced by various cultural beliefs and practices. While there are myths that warn of severe consequences for adulterous behavior, such as violence or eternal bonding during intercourse, it's important to recognize the diversity of views on sexuality. Men in these tribes generally exhibited more openness about their sexual desires, whereas women may approach sexuality differently, often leveraging their sexuality for survival, such as exchanging sexual encounters for resources like fish. Unfortunately, as girls grow into womanhood, they may face offensive comments about their reproductive organs, and upon reaching their first period, they might be accused of contaminating food or desecrating rituals. Preferred locations for sexual encounters include secluded spots by the river or in the bush, often practicing a sitting position to avoid insect bites. In situations with limited privacy, couples may engage in intimate acts in hammocks, despite the discomfort and lack of privacy. It's worth noting that animal sexuality is referenced in certain contexts, particularly encounters between women and snakes, reflecting sexual anxiety and fear of relationships outside the tribe. In the ancient Amazon, children had many fathers and women many lovers. Journey deep into the lush and captivating realm of the ancient Amazon rainforest, and you'll discover a world unlike any other, a place where freedom and passion intertwine to create a truly sexually liberated culture. Here, within the heart of the verdant wilderness, an astonishing phenomenon flourished: multiple paternity, a practice embraced by nearly 70% of the tribes. In this mesmerizing society, the notion of having multiple sexual partners was not only accepted but expected. Open arrangements were the norm, allowing individuals to openly express their desires and forge connections with numerous lovers. Renowned anthropologist Robert Walker reveals that these connections were far from superficial. Rather, they held profound significance. Men, in their roles as fathers, embraced the responsibility of nurturing the children born from their partners' unions. Thus, a woman's offspring could have not just one, but many fathers, the primary figure and a host of invaluable secondary fathers. What set the ancient Amazonians apart was their fascinating interpretation of genetics. In their captivating world, it was believed that each of a child's biological fathers contributed a part of their essence. Consequently, it was perfectly acceptable for children to have multiple fathers, and these secondary fathers played an active role in their upbringing. Astonishingly, it was considered ill-mannered for a husband to exhibit jealousy towards his wife's extramarital partner, and even stranger if one did not engage in multiple sexual partnerships. In fact, cousins often became preferred companions, making it particularly impolite to reject their advances. For children, the advantages of having as many fathers as possible were plentiful. Not only did it result in an abundance of gifts and support, but it also heightened their chances of thriving into adulthood. This arrangement served as a pragmatic solution to the harsh realities of life in a society marked by frequent and brutal warfare. If tragedy befell the primary father, other males would seamlessly step in, shouldering the responsibility of fatherhood and alleviating the burden on the grieving mother. The benefits extended to men as well. Shared paternity forged unbreakable bonds and fostered deep friendships. In fact, one of the most effective ways for two men to solidify an alliance was through the act of sharing wives, often within the framework of a closely knit family. Brothers, in particular, frequently engaged in this practice, further strengthening their connections. Remarkable new research conducted by Walker sheds light on the customs of 128 indigenous groups in the lowland regions of South America. Among these groups, 53 are known to have embraced multiple paternity, while only 23 practiced single paternity. The remaining 52 lack clear records of their conception beliefs, leaving us uncertain of whether they too once embraced this fascinating custom. Nonetheless, we can confidently assert that at least 40% and potentially up to 70% of these groups shared in the tradition of multiple paternity, undoubtedly making it a widespread and integral facet of Amazonian civilization. Thanks for watching.